All right, there we go. All right, well, blessings, everybody. Welcome to the gathering, and just love seeing all of your beautiful faces.
Recording
and
in progress.
An opportunity to, really dig into some of these topics. And just so everyone gets it, this platform, this gathering is really meant to be kind of an ecumenical stage where we know that God is good enough, big enough, large enough, loving enough that all people are his children, and that he may have touched people in different arenas and different cultures in different ways. And I want to learn about it. I want to understand, and I want to not be afraid of other people and other cultures and the way they see God, but rather be open to understand and to hear what they have to say, and not feel like we got to try to correct them and make them see it our way. Because obviously and honestly, I think many of us have come to the conclusion and realized, wow, there are some other groups, there are some other people, some other cultures that actually have a beautiful, beautiful way of seeing God, and I want to learn that. So, even here at the Pearl, where we're manifesting an actual eco-village on the land of Mississippi, and we're bringing people in, the whole idea is that you can come here if you have love for all, unconditional love, and you are a person of peace and joy, and we can come together. And the beauty of it is that we get to sit around, and so Nicholas and Corey and Jeanette and myself right now, we get together, and we're starting to do this more and more regularly now. Sometime in the morning we get together and we just have a meditation time and we have conversation time. And that conversation time, we'll talk about anything from aliens to the Christ consciousness to the love of God. It doesn't matter, necessarily what the topic is. It's that we actually are getting the best of the best, that we're learning to hear the hearts of one another and to just bless each other as we move forward in this next stage of the the love of God. I mean, I sincerely believe that God is taking humanity to entirely new levels of consciousness, where our love is beginning to surpass anything and everything that we've ever experienced already, and taking us deeper and deeper into the heart of God. So it's a beautiful, beautiful time. I do want to mention that we have a retreat coming up right here at the Pearl, October 16th through the 19th. That's a Thursday night through a Sunday morning. And it is going to be a time of deep, deep meditation, going past the programming that the world has put on us in order to step into your authentic self and to be who God actually created you to be. Because one thing I can say almost for certain, I hold everything loosely, and I leave a little room for myself to be wrong, because I've been wrong before, but I really sincerely believe that the universe, God himself, looks for those people who are living their authentic life. It's like, that person's actually going down the path and the direction that I created them for, so that they could be this wonderful, beautiful light in the universe. And then kind of looking at a lot of the other people, still loves them just the same, but it's like, that person's still judging, or judging themselves according to what someone else is doing. They're still running by the programming that the world and the corporations or whatever it is might have given to them, to where they're really just not living their authentic life. They're still just in the matrix, doing what they're told to do. Got their idea of success from their family and from their corporation, from their country, the American dream, all this. But they've been able to just bypass all that. And that's what we're doing in those meditations. We're bypassing all that and to get down to the core of you, so that you can begin to understand why you're here and what you're here to do. And from that space and place, I sincerely believe, and we just had a great meditation this morning on this very thing, where we just spent time in the quantum heart, creative heart of God, and just experiencing those things that the universe, that you and the universe, you do co-create in that sense, is that you and the universe already created, but they've been waiting for you to align with who you truly are, so that those things could come into you in that quantum realm, into your spirit. And then when we come back into this 3D realm, we release it and we watch it unfold and manifest with gratitude. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful way of life. And, I'm excited because we get to do that from a place of rest. We're no longer pushing and striving and trying to make things happen, stressing ourselves out, stressing everybody else out. We just get to be. And we get to watch these things happen. And yes, we cooperate. Yes, we participate. But it's done from a different energy than that striving and fighting and pushing and scratching and, we get to just be. So anyway, that's a big part of what's going to be happening at the retreat, October 16th through the 19th. And if you want to join that, been plenty of things on the Facebook page. If you want to go find it there, or you can go to the website, gilhodgesfreedom.com, and you can look under the retreats or events, and you'll find the Living Without Limits. And that's what it's called, Living Without Limits. Okay, I'm done with that. So, we have Steve Hampton on here today. And actually, let me just check real quick. Is there anything else that anybody has that they need to share, want to share before we jump in? I'm just going to look for electronic hands or a big hand in my face like that, and I'll... Okay, Larry and Debbie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a special hello to Bonnie Prestegard. She is part of our Ultimate Impact, has been going through something. I'm so glad that she's here with us today.
Me too.
Being able to join us. So,
yes.
Blessings to you, Bonnie. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, Bonnie, it is good to see you here. And I don't know if anybody has known her journey. She has journeyed through a lot lately. And very good to see you here. And again, just welcome everybody, Suba and Carol and June, some rather new faces. We are here every Sunday at 11:30 Central Time, and we go till 1 o'clock Central Time. But we are here every Sunday, and I'm generally here to lead, but I got a great team of leaders who jump in and take it when I'm not there, and so it's just been a beautiful, beautiful community, and I love it. Love you guys. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, Steve and I did a show 2 or 3 weeks back. It was recorded. We aired it on Thursday night. And now we're going to open it up for Steve to go ahead and share a little bit. Because I know that probably not everybody got to see the show, so you might not have some questions from that. But I do encourage you to watch the shows. And I do want to say that this upcoming week, we've already recorded the show. The title of the show is Shamanism, Plant Medicine, and Ceremony. So if that doesn't ring a few bells and rile up a little something in you, definitely watch it. This couple is just absolutely beautiful. They carry love in a very, very powerful way. And we had a great conversation, so be sure to watch that show. I think we're going to start airing those on Thursday nights because we have our Inner Circle group meeting on Wednesday nights. So that'll be on Thursday night. And then they'll be on here with us as guests next week. So that is what's happening. All right, so Steve, I can't tell you how much of an honor it is to have you on here. You have been such a massive part of my own journey over the last, 5-6 years with, you came to almost every retreat that we did from, I'd say, 2020 through 2023, something like that. And just a big part of those retreats, and just so appreciate you being there. It was so fun. So now, we just caught up and we shared that video. And it's been an honor to call you a friend and have you on the show multiple times. So I'm going to be quiet and just say, go ahead. And there's some people here that probably don't know you that well. So if you want to share a little bit, go ahead, and then maybe share a little recap from that video on that we did this last evening or Thursday night, and let people ask some questions at that point. So take it away.
Happy to do that. I really enjoyed our time together, and thank you. Could somebody bring me some water? Okay. I realized this morning that I came up with the name of the tour that I was in.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Daphne. Yeah. The weather was extraordinary and was just a big old blessing. Yeah.
Whenever you create something out of bronze, you're going to add some tin. You're going to add a little bit of oh gosh, um, I'm drawing a blank as to what the other alloy is for that. But you're
Copper.
basically,
Is it
well,
copper?
there's copper of shaping this and then tuning it. And so when you do that, these started out as cooking utensils. They literally would cook their stews and their foods in them, and they would serve them in the little being sold as what are called ancient singing bowls. They're not really that ancient. No, not titanium. Too modern. But it'll come to me eventually. When the bowls are played on the human body, one of the things that happens scientifically is called the gate theory of pain mitigation. And so, medically speaking, and I am not a doctor, so I'm not making a medical claim. I'm just explaining the science to you. When the body undergoes that kind of a therapy, where they sit, where the person lays down, the bowls are put on the body, that relaxes us, and it also affects the nerves. Okay, so we've got a whole list here. Oh, zinc was the one I was thinking of. So remind me to go back to zinc, because there's a really key point about our birth and zinc, and why that's so significant, why the bowls do what they do. But when you're in that state, you can literally switch off the access to the brain from the nervous system. So if you hurt your thumb, pound a hammer on your thumb, you can mitigate the amount of pain that you experience, because you don't experience the pain here, you experience it in the head. So if you do your left hand, you're going to experience it on the right side of the brain. If you hit your right thumb, you're going to feel it on the left side of your brain. And as the pain indicators travel up and down the spine, what ends up happening with that is there's a synaptic gate in the spine, and that signal is trying to go into that gate so that it can get to the brain. When you shake your thumb, rub it, move it, suck it, when you've hurt yourself, you typically don't just sit there and say, oh my, I just hit myself with a hammer. You typically react. But rubbing it and massaging it, or playing a singing bowl to vibrate it, is going to cause that synaptic gate to close. So when the signal tries to get in, the gate's closed. There's nowhere to go. A little bit of the signal gets in, and then the body gets flooded with all these wonderful chemicals from the brain to help relieve that pain. That's a deliberate thing we can do. We can deliberately shift the frequencies of our body with an intention. And that's just one example from science about how that works. And when it talks about let everything that has breath praise the Lord, using these instruments, these various instruments, and why they do what they do. And there's so many different reasons. You know, for the first time in history, and as a sound therapist and a singing bowl aficionado, I'm so excited about this. For the first time in history, there are over 1,000 studies being done on the use of singing bowls and human health, wellness. And these are all being funded by major organizations, major hospitals. They're not little, hidden away in some New Age commune somewhere. This is like New York University. This is Mayo Clinic, John Hopkins. They're sponsoring these studies because they've seen such a massive effect of that. Now, why would this happen? So I want to take you back to your conception. And I know we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but I think you'll find this fascinating. When you and I are conceived, there is something that happens that's called the flash of light or the flash of life. Many of you have heard that. And what they've just recently figured out what that flash is and how it comes about. So when a human egg is fertilized by the sperm, there is a moment when that penetration takes place of the sperm into that, and it becomes a human being. Even if it's just one cell, it becomes a human being. At that moment, this flash takes place, and what it is it's a release of an illuminated zinc. zinc explodes into the atmosphere out of this little tiny cell. And then they understand now that that cell quickly replicates into 8 additional cells, and that first cell goes into the middle of that cluster, and it becomes the human heart.
Interesting. Wow.
So if you look for it, there's a lot of science there to back these things up. I don't spend most of my time studying those kinds of things. I geek out all the time. I give myself permission to. But what I discovered on the tour, which was an 18-month tour, and you were at the very beginning of it, and you were one of the last places that I was, and all the retreats in between, and we saw literally hundreds of people throughout the country. I think I took care of about 1,500 people during those 18 months that I was out there. And we saw tremendous healings take place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, deep relaxation, great release of creativity. And we saw, there were some incredible things. I remember, I'll share this, remember when we did Christopher Carter's first VST. Everybody was there waiting to hear his feedback and response. I mean, there was a whole bunch of people that were at this conference that he was at, and so they came down thinking, oh, Christopher's there, he's going to come out and give us a little description. And he got done, he goes, can we just stay in here for a while? He goes, I want to experience this. I want to own this experience. I want to process it in my own space, in my own time. I don't mind you being here, but if it's okay with you, I'd I don't want an audience. And I said, no, that's totally fine. We tell people when you go through these kinds of therapies, even when we're doing them online, take some time for yourself afterwards, because you don't want to pull yourself out of that process. It's like being in a deep meditation and then having somebody come in and, beat an alarm in your ear and say, okay, it's time to sober up now. Come on, we got to get on with our day.
Right.
So I know that people are somewhat familiar with this, and for some of you, you may have never experienced this, and if you're ever interested, I'm happy to set up a session for you. But what questions were generated by either watching the show and or from the things that I just said this morning, or general questions about energy or about healing, or because I've been engaged in doing physical healing for most of my life. I'm 71, and I started in the healing side of things when I was about 12.
Wow. Yeah, so if anybody has any thoughts, any questions, anything you want to add, raise your electronic hand. If you don't know how to raise your electronic hand, just put your hand in front of the camera, and we'll figure it out. We'll get you in there. So I see John and Evelyn has got their hand up. Go ahead, John, Evelyn.
I wanted to ask, are there different bowls or frequencies for different kinds of healing?
Yes. And I'm going to answer that question a little deeper than on a surface level of yes. There is a whole school of thought that the frequencies, specific frequencies, matter, and that some frequencies are better for us than others. And many of you have probably heard the same things that I've heard for years, which is that 432 frequency is better than 440, and 444 is better than 440, which is the standard of our tuning in the Western world, and all of those kinds of things. Here's my problem with that. There is no scientific evidence, nor is there any historical evidence for any of the rumors and misdirection that have come as a result of that.
And I want to support that, because I let people talk about it and share all these things, and it's like it's a repeat of the wives' tales that have gone out there and become mainstream, and it's just like, it's not really true, people. But I'm not going to argue that. If people want to believe it, then I'll let them believe it. But honestly, there's no evidence for it. There's no solid evidence for it. Just say it that way. Yeah.
That's right. And it really doesn't matter whether you look at it historically, scientifically, even pragmatically. Just when you, if you're going to deal with sound, you're dealing in the field of physics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The frequencies are simply numbers that are assigned to how often a tone repeats itself. So there's waves that happen. They go up and down and up and down. If you take the up and mark that in time, then come down and mark the next one. And then you look at the frequency, how often those intersect with each other. That gives you a frequency. Frequencies are numbers like inches, miles, cups, pounds.
They're arbitrary.
And they're just numbers, and they don't have an intrinsic meaning in and of themselves. To say that one frequency is better than another is to violate the laws of physics, and honestly, it's to violate the laws of sound and music, because when you listen to, and I've got good friends, there's good friends that Gil and I have shared together, and there's friends that are even no longer with us. I think of a wonderful conversation that I had with my good friend who started Whole Tones, and he's since gone to be with the Lord. But Michael and I used to spend hours, before he ever started Whole Tones, we used to spend hours talking together about these various frequencies and things like that. And I first heard about all of the frequency stuff from Don Potter. And Don and I were talking backstage, and he says, "Hey, have you heard about this frequency thing about tuning your guitar to 432, and it's a healing frequency?" And he said, "Yeah, supposedly it's based on some experiments that were done by Hitler and Goebbels and during World War II and the prisoner camps and all that." None of that ever happened, guys. It's all false. And Don acknowledged that. Don said, "Yeah, it's I can't find any evidence that this really happened. It just looks like a bunch of internet rumors." So the problem is, when you look, for instance, and one of the things I brought up to Michael was, when you're talking about the frequency of, say, 432, A432, and then you say, "I'm going to play music in 432," what you're saying is, you're giving people the impression that every note that is played in that music is at 432, and it's going to target the cellular response of the body. And again, that would, number one, that would be boring, because A432 would be ooh, right? It would just be a single note. That we don't call that music. We call that a single note. It's humming.
A tone.
It's a tone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are tone generators.
Yeah.
But when we go into this deeper, we realize that there's never been a universal tuning for orchestras around the world. European orchestras tended to be in the 431 to 434 range, tuned by ear, tuning to each other. The reason that they standardized it back in the 1950s was it was easier to make instruments all the same frequency as far as tuning, because how are you going to tune a bronze instrument like a trumpet or a brass cornet or a brass trombone? How are you going to change that, right? You can slide the notes and things like that, and you can finger the notes, but you can't change the basic tuning of that instrument. And if you start messing around with pianos, legitimate pianos that have strings that are not electronic synthesizers, if you've got that, what you end up with is, if you start messing with the tuning of that, you'll actually damage the instrument. So I did some experiments with a group of people for several months, where I snuck in ahead of our worship time and I tuned all of the instruments to A432, and then I tried 440, and then I tried 444. And we saw healing every time, but the most healing that we saw during those unsolicited times of worship were for the good old A440. There were more healings that took place then than in the other changes. Nobody noticed the difference. And so I started digging into this a little deeper and realized that, and here's my statement, and I don't mean this to sound funny or cute, but this is just my statement. All frequencies matter.
Yes. Yeah.
All frequencies matter.
And I was just going to throw in one thought, because there has been a lot of, I'm going to say hoopla, a lot of hoopla around these frequencies and certain ones being able to do certain things. There is one thing that is true, though, and that is the placebo effect of people believing certain things can have an effect. So, I would be curious if you went back and did that test and you, kind of did the blind test. And so you obviously got the 3 different ones that you did. And, so what if you went back and said, okay, we're doing, what is it, 444? That's the one that everyone kind of totes as being the sacred one, correct? So, yeah, so you actually did 432 or 440 and said it's on 444 today. I almost would guarantee that you're going to see, significant rise of, healings and so forth because of the belief, the placebo effect, which to me, the placebo effect is extremely powerful. And in fact, I would say it's probably the most powerful effect that you can find on planet Earth, because we tend to see manifestation of things that we believe in strongly. And that has more to do with it than the actual reality of what might be happening. And that's the crazy thing about us as human beings being able to manifest things. So anyway.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Here's what guides me. This one truth anchors me. They will know the truth, and the truth will set them free.
Yeah.
The word know, it comes from the root gnosko, which means an actual knowledge, an experiential knowledge. When we know something at the level of experience, it's really hard to convince us that it's not true.
Right.
It's really difficult. When people say, "Well, God, how do you know God healed you?" Oh, I'm healed, and I asked God to do it, so I know it's God. It's really hard to take that away from that. Josh McDowell, the campus evangelist, used to say, the man with an argument is never at the mercy, or is always at the mercy of a man with an experience.
Yep. Yeah.
And so here's my take on this. The whole Hitler story, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers taking the bronze munitions factory and converting it to trumpet factories. None of that ever happened, but that's all based on a lie. And it's the truth that we experience that sets us free. It is not the lie. So I want to publish good news of the truth. And, so what I'll do is I'll take people where they are. If somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I was at a meeting with so-and-so and he tuned his instruments to 432 and I got healed," what do you think my response would be? Praise God. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Bless you. I'm not going to talk them out of that. I don't need to correct them. I don't need to, thy word have I hidden in my heart, not my notebook. Right.
Yeah.
So, we want to do that. Now, let me go back to John's question and answer that now with that as a context. All frequencies matter, but we can choose and select frequencies that work better for certain situations. So if you're trying to draw your consciousness to attention, a high sounding bowl, a little bowl, is going to sound different, and it's going to resonate more with you within your level of consciousness and even in the subconscious level than maybe a deeper sounding bowl. But that little tiny bowl is not necessarily going to release tension, muscle strain, cramping of some sort, or deep-seated pain. You might need a deeper bowl than that. So I'll say lower frequencies tend to have certain healing properties. Higher frequencies bowls and instruments have certain healing properties, and everything in between. There's a plethora of frequencies, and so Kristen and I, in the work that we do, I'm sitting in our therapy room, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. There's 21 bowls that I'm looking at, and that's not all the bowls that are here. That's just what I can see. So we have a basic 3 or 4 that we use, but we go about this therapeutically the way an artist has a palette with some paints on it.
Yeah.
I might not use all those colors, but at least they're there if I get inspired to use them.
Yeah. And again, there is absolutely something. I mean, I believe there's got to be something to frequencies and how they affect us and how they can be used and what they do and so on and so forth. We're just talking about musical frequencies. We're not even talking about getting into quantum, E equals MC squared, and that everything is, every piece of matter is an energy and is a frequency, has a frequency, and then when you start putting one frequency with another frequency, all of a sudden now you kind of got a different frequency, and each one of us carry a little bit different frequency, and every one of our body parts carries a different frequency, but we're all a little bit different in how those frequencies come together, and it makes us very individual, very much separate individuals and all that. But anyway, I want to give Janine and Kelly, they've had their hand up for a while. I want to give them an opportunity to jump in here. Go ahead, Janine. Kelly.
Thank you. Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
I got to tell you, we used to live in Wenatchee, Washington, and we were there when we first heard about you. And I so wish we had just made the drive to Seattle and said, hey, because, apparently that's not the way the process was supposed to go for me. My question is kind of multi-layered, and I actually put my hand up and took it down because I keep trying to figure out the question, but I'm just going to let her fly.
Let's figure it out together.
Yeah. When you are working in a session, and maybe this was a process from the beginning of you starting, because I would love to ask you all kinds of questions. I'd love to hear how you got into using sound bowls, but I understand we don't have all day. When you are working with someone, you have this plethora of knowledge. How much is also intuitive, not just knowledge? So I guess I have a few questions. Another question is, where do you think that this is interacting with the frequencies of the chakras, the dantians? I mean, obviously it's playing into all of that because everything is energy. But, if you talked about trying to address muscles, that's on the physical body level. On the energetic body level, are you setting specific intentions, or see, this is why I put my hand up and took it down, because I'm telling you, I gobbledygook. I could not make
So I'll say it this way. If I could help you see, okay, behind you is a background that I'm assuming you've inserted there through Zoom, that it's not actual, but it's virtual.
Yes.
If I could open your eyes to see the other layer that I see behind you and Kelly of angels that have suddenly rushed in to where you are, you would be stunned, and probably a bit speechless at this point, because there is an incredible amount of energy going on around you when this happened. And I started watching it. I saw when you put your hand up first time, and I watched the angels coming in and coming in and coming in, and then when you said Wenatchee, bam, like they literally just came full force into my vision field. So you're in an interesting place in your journey, and I would say that this is one of those, for such a time as this, moments that has been ordained for you to connect the dots on some of these things. And so I'm happy. You know, I mean, I do a lot of coaching with people, in the people that are doing sound therapy and wanting to learn to do the vibrational sound healing work. They want to learn to do sound baths, but I also just work with people like we've got a lady that bought some bowls and she just wants to talk about the bowls and what do they do, and she's just like, I I have all these questions, and so every once in a while she'll sign up and do an hour long, it's a 90 minute, but she'll do like 90 minutes of consulting, and we'll share that, and you're certainly welcome to do that. But I would recommend for you, since you weren't able to come over to Seattle and I wasn't able to connect with you there, let's connect sometime and talk about doing a virtual session for you, because it really does work. I'll tell you, I was the biggest skeptic because I'm an audio engineer and I've worked in recording studios for many years, and then I'll go back to when I started listening to different sounds of different instruments. Growing up in Hawaii, for the first 38 years of my life, I found all of these instruments coming through from different cultures, and every one of them attracted me. And it was like 30 years ago that I first discovered the crystal singing bowls. And then a few years back, I was able to buy my first one, and since then, I really need to join BA,
Right?
Bowls Anonymous. Hi, I'm Steve. The last time I bought a singing bowl was 5 minutes ago. Right, kind of a thing. And so we'll connect sometime on that so that you can ask more questions, and we can talk about.
Another connection there because I also grew up in Hawaii.
Oh,
I was,
really?
yeah, and my first four children were born there, and we lived there until my oldest was 11.
You were
So
on Oahu?
yeah, I was on Oahu, Mililani town,
Yeah.
YPO up in the middle for
Okay.
about 20 years, from 11 to 31. So
Awesome. Oh, that's great. Yeah, mine was from 2 years of age on.
beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
well,
Cool.
I'll say this to go back to summarize maybe some of what you have asked. There's so much to learn, and I just believe that I've approached this again, sci-fi, sharpen or shift your frequencies intentionally. Everything is by intention.
Yeah.
And intentional alchemy says I can take things that are and convert them into things that are not.
You're speaking my language.
Okay. So I will go in and very often do that, but I saw some things happen. I don't talk about this very much, but you guys are um, more enlightened than a lot of the groups that I get a chance to talk with. Um, there were times that I was on the tour, and I've had this happen before the tour and after the tour, so this is not unique to the tour. But it was a concentrated time of 18 months of traveling across the country twice in a big circle. And there were several times where, as I'm doing the session, I would lift off the ground.
Yep.
And like I almost face planted into somebody's body because I lifted up about a foot off the ground and realized what was happening, and I got a little dizzy, and I leaned forward, and then I came down really hard, and I missed hitting them, but I did knock the bowl. But the other one that fascinated me is I had several experiences where the there was a light that would form in the room.
Yes.
And on one experience, there was somebody else in the room observing that he was being trained by me. He looked at that, and his eyes got big as saucers, and he mouthed, "Did you see that?"
Mhm.
And I just nodded yes while I'm playing the bowls. So there, Gil talked about there are these quantum level experiences that we can have. We do regular chakra tuning,
Mhm.
uh, and we'll call it that in the community. Here's the thing, guys. I don't consider myself a part of the church anymore. From a working model. I'm not a part of the church. I'm a member of the body of Christ because I am in Christ. But I don't consider myself a church member because years ago God took me out of the church and put me into a place where I would have access to people that were classified as New Age or
Here.
world religious. Their paradigms had completely shifted.
Yeah.
And so in the process of that, I started learning the language and speaking the language. And that's why I'll say, I don't care whether you want to call God God or Jesus or the universe or the wallpaper. I literally don't care because he doesn't care. He will answer to whatever we call him when we call with our whole heart. And so I will very often not get hung up over those kinds of semantics. Do I have beliefs? Yeah, and I've got a degree. My college degree is in the Bible, and I know it well, as many of you do. And so I look at this as we are made of energy. The term in Scripture is energeo. Sounds a little bit like energy because that's where we got the English word.
Mm-hmm.
The energeo that is in the spirit is what fuels and fires us in everything on the physical level, on the quantum level, on the spiritual level, on the soulish level. Like those invisible realms are fired by the same energy that enable us to move and live and have our being. So, we could literally talk for hours and hours and hours about this. And when I'm doing seminars and when I'm training people in our classes that we do, I go into all this detail. But I'm excited to connect with you guys and be able to answer questions because I don't often have a chance to do just that. And so if you've got more questions, I see.
Yeah, there's some other hands that are up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hit those. But one thing, Steve, I thought of doing this actually years ago. There just came a point where I felt like, a lot of people kind of in the mystic movement just seemed to be continually going further out there, further out there, further out there, and it hurt my heart because it's like there's the reality of the things that we can move with, but when it becomes a stretch in order to keep a following and to keep everybody tantalized, the Bible even talks about the tickling of the ears and just keeping everybody, it's that charismatic fix where you got to keep going to the next one and the next one versus finding contentment. That, a lot of stuff just got to started going so far. I really was considering about starting another show and calling it the Mystic Mythbusters. And really just start calling the BS, because one of the things I feel like, we're doing something that I absolutely believe in. The spiritual side of our existence is so significant and so powerful, in the quantum field, all these things, there's reality to it. But then, when it's almost always the people that say, well, this is the way it is. And they're the ones that are likely just making something up and hoping people will believe it and run with them. Versus being in a place where we can share a thought. It's like, I feel like, or I had this experience, or this thing just kind of downloaded, but always doing it with kind of an open hand, held loosely. This is just something I experienced. I don't know if it's real, but then all of a sudden you find out, now this person had that experience, and this person and that person, and even independently of one another, that's what I look for. That's when I start realizing, wow, okay, there may be something here that God himself is downloading into humanity that we can run with, even though we may not understand it. But for me, it felt like there was just too much sensationalism that was beginning to take place in the mystic movement, and for me, I was just like, I want to just do a Mystic Mythbusters show and just talk about some of the stuff. And it's like when people were claiming, oh, I can teach you how to teleport and teach you how to do this, and I'm like, now there's an element to that yes, I could see. You could literally, for me, in my mind, the way I look at it, if you've got a thought, that is an energy. That is a frequency.
Yeah.
And that thought and that energy is going out there, and it is doing something. So yes, I absolutely believe that. And can it be done that someone can physically teleport, transport? I believe it can. But it's like when someone says, well, I can teach you that. Okay, well, let me see you do it first. I've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it can't happen. Definitely not saying that it can't happen or it doesn't happen. But I'm just saying let's keep our credibility on so that we can continue to move forward, because you get enough of that crap happening and you're going to have more and more people who are solid that are just going to say, bye-bye, I'm not, this is too, out there in la la land, and they're looking for reality, the reality of the supernatural.
Yes.
To me, there is a reality of the supernatural. In fact, I'd even say it's more real than this physical world that we're in. But again, can't get too woo-woo with all this stuff. Otherwise, we just begin to lose, the people that really are really searching for something somewhat tangible. And faith can be tangible, but you've got to. It just can't be based on the next charismatic leader saying something that everybody says, that's it, we got to go with that. It's to me, it's dangerous, honestly. But anyway, all right, enough of that.
I agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that's an important distinction, Gil. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right, Dorette, go ahead, and then Maxine.
Thank you. I'm totally enjoying this conversation. It's awesome. I have a set of some singing bowls here, both crystal and bronze, and I generally love to play them while I'm listening to the Riveras or to John Carter or so, and just play it on top of that. But I would love to learn more as well. So if you are doing a class or something like that,
There you go.
we want to class together, I would love to be part of that, just to share with others what do we do with these things, and
Excellent.
what can we try. And my other question is about the they call it the frequencies of the elements of the periodic table. So basically the frequencies of creation. So what David Van Goovering said about that, and John Tassi has implemented some of that. So it's like, can you say more about that?
Yes, I saw your question there in the chat. David was a friend of mine. I had the privilege of working with him on a number of different projects. And the thing that I loved about David, he almost reminded me of a little elf. He was just so precocious in his childlike approach to things. And he would say things to me like, Steve, tell me what's happening with this particular thing, because I want to know what you're experiencing. And he was just like a kid in a candy store. He was just like, ooh, try the chocolate. It's really good. And so one of the things that I think he stumbled onto intentionally was looking for, and he created a synthesizer, a keyboard, based on the elements themselves and the frequencies that are there. Now, again, frequencies are, let's see, I want to be gentle. If I hear people say all the time, frequencies are so important, frequencies healed me. And I want to say that's like me saying I'm going to just change it from frequency to another measurement. If we talk about gallons or miles, I've experienced gallons and they healed me. Those inches are amazing. Like the inches of God caused my healing to take place. The meters of me extending my spirit into the meters, doesn't it start sounding just kind of silly? And yet we give credence to frequencies because the word frequency has taken on a different meaning. So the what people mean, and I understand that, is the slang, not the accuracy. The accuracy of the term is it is a unit of measurement. It measures the peaks and valleys of the sonic waves. what they're meaning is that there's this quantum level that they don't fully understand. There's this quantum level of the generation of sounds and tones that can have a healing effect. Now, some people have demonstrated that they can have a negative effect too. So, Gil talked about the spectrum earlier, that we have an electromagnetic spectrum of light and of acoustic sound. But simply put, sound is the displacement of molecules that show up as tones and sounds in our ears. That's how we can hear, is the hearing apparatus within our ear, the eardrum, picks up that and translates it to something that we know in our mind, and then we're able to relate to that in the environment that we're in. So I think basically we have the capacity to move into, and I think that singing bowls, especially bronze and crystal singing bowls, when they are played in different ways, and that's what we teach people. We've got several students right now that we've graduated that are now starting their own businesses because they're really enjoying using the bowls with people. But they also, we've encouraged them, use them in your daily practice as well. Don't just wait for a client, use them daily. So we play bowls here, whether we've got clients here or not. They're a part of our daily life. But yeah, Dorette, it sounds like you're on a journey as well to experiencing more and more of this, and any way we can encourage you, we'll be happy to do that. I'm not going to promise anything, but I'm working on a book right now to try to bring some clarity to people and talk about what is sound healing and how does it work, and so anyway.
Do you know more about how David got onto the frequencies with the synthesizer? Because I'm like, okay, normally I don't hear oxygen singing, for instance. So is this a way to just amplify, or the what do you call it? The way that oxygen itself works with the energy levels that it has as a state that it is in. As a molecule, or I've been wondering, how does that work? Do you know?
I don't fully understand what David did to get there. I can describe some other things like that, but again, it comes down to when I think this can be a bit simplistic. Mm-hmm. If I take an electronic tone for each of those frequencies, and I play those, let's say you need more oxygen because your breathing is difficult. So if I play a musical composition using the notes that are complementary to things like circulation, respiration, so oxygen, nitrogen, all the gases. If I express that to you and you see a shift in your health and your wellness, then we know we're onto something. And that's what David was moving towards. He didn't live long enough to do that fully, but I know one of the things that he and I talked about, he was on stage. This was comical. He was on stage with Ian Clayton and Justin Abraham. Mm-hmm. So it was the three of them talking, and what he didn't know was they were in awe. Like, they were going back to the green room saying, we got to be on stage with David Van Goovering. Oh my gosh. And they wanted to actually sit down and talk with him one-on-one, but they were afraid to cross that barrier. David would come to me afterwards, because his green room was his booth, because he was selling some of his recordings. And he would say, oh, I can't believe I just got to speak with those guys on stage. How exciting. I've been wanting to meet Ian for years and years and years, and so they were both in awe of each other, which I thought was really delightful. And he said, do you think Ian would mind if I ask him some questions about his experience within the quantum realm. I said, no, he would love it. He would really love it. So I don't know whether that ever happened or not, but he came back from a couple of those sessions where he was just like lit up like a kid in a candy store. I just think had he lived a little longer, we would have seen more of this come out, and more expressiveness would come out. But maybe he left it for some of us to do.
Right. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorette. Okay, Maxine. And again, if anybody else has got questions, bring them on. And I know some of you are watching on Facebook and YouTube. I would encourage you. The Zoom is one of the best ways to jump in, and you can get to the Zoom by going to my website, gilhodgesfreedom.com, and just scrolling down, you'll see the gathering. Click there, and you can join the Zoom. So would love to have you in real time. All right, so Maxine, go ahead.
Yes, I know that, well, I didn't know years ago how the frequency was associated with the atmosphere when people had prayed and the anointing was in the room and people could sense that anointing when they came in. So I'm thinking, all right, well, when you play the singing bowls, is it intentional, or how long does the effect of the frequencies linger in the atmosphere? Is it something that, or do you even know? I mean, like if I'm in my house and my son is living with me and he's in his bedroom and we have our space, but I play the piano after, he goes to work or when he's not here. And I do not have a singing bowl. I have thought about it. But I want to affect and draw in the love of God. And really, I want to push it into him, And I know I can't do that.
Right,
but,
right.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Could I just jump in here? Because, all of us would love to see a lot of different things happen to our loved ones. We would love to see them accept them. And if we're not careful, we would make them accept it, right? But that's part of my book Choice, when I wrote that, is just recognizing God doesn't do that to us, that he gives us that freedom of choice. But he is constantly placing stuff in front of us. Just as you would be able to place a frequency sound in front of him and even put intent with it, but that you're putting it out there into the atmosphere and giving him opportunity to accept it. That's his choice, that he could accept it and receive it. That would be the beautiful thing. But go ahead, Steve.
Gil, I couldn't have said it better. That's really good. I will say this, Maxine. I think one of the things that is important is how do we manage the energy in the atmosphere around us? And most of us don't think about that, but it's really important to do that, to have a healthy boundaries and healthy energetic boundaries. And again, I approach everything without fear. There's no love. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear.
Yep.
The opposite is not true. There's no love in fear. And perfect fear will keep love from manifesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to stop perfecting our fear.
Right.
I know one of the exercises that I learned from Gil years ago, that one of the first retreats I went to, was how to go access your perfected self.
Yeah.
And I remember the question going through my mind, almost fearful, of, well, what if I access my perfected self and it's really a worse version of me?
Not going to happen.
but then the Lord spoke to my heart and said, "What if
Yeah.
you would still be loved? You would still be destined for joy. You would still be destined for peace and all that. So what if you encountered a version of you that was not good? Would you love yourself anyway?"
That's good.
And
yeah.
that was a real challenge for me, which it was good.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, and you know, just along those lines, it's like even yesterday I was having an experience with someone where, you know, we're usually high energy, high fun, just love, and anyway, we found ourselves in a situation where we're both just like, "Ugh." And you know, it's okay. You don't always have to be going, but for me especially, just because I have been teaching this now for years. But just to come to that place of, we're in this place. Do I want to just let it ride for a little bit? Is it okay to just let it ride for a little bit? Or do I want to change it because I have the choice? And once you change your inner kingdom, that's where you do get to choose. I can choose. I may not be able to choose what's going on out here that's kind of putting a little emphasis on this other attitude that's coming out. I may not be able to change that, but I can just say, I'm going to stop that emotion because I do get to choose how I'm going to respond to that thing out there. And I'm going to just go ahead and shift it. And I'm going to step into the joy, the happiness of what's in here, not what's out there. Because what's out there is not really producing, the things that I would like to have. But it's giving me a challenge and an opportunity to strengthen what's in here and to manifest that love and joy and peace from the kingdom within. And that's a beautiful thing when we're awake to that and we can actually do it. It's a beautiful thing.
let me give a key to go along with that. I want you guys to take your hands and don't touch them, but put them really close together. I'm very much into experimenting and experiencing these things, not just talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna feel as if you're touching, but you're not there. You're not touching, but you're starting to feel heat bounce back and forth, maybe a little tingling, maybe a little movement. Okay? That is far infrared energy. So these are frequency generators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I'm going to have you warm that up a little bit. Now you're acknowledging the presence of that energy and that healing. And then I'm going to have you put one hand behind your head and one hand and just hold them there. We're just going to hold it there for a few moments. I want you to release out of your hands whatever comes, whether it's peace or joy. And just tune into that. Okay, and then come back to the first position and let's warm up that energy one more time. And now if you can remember to switch hands, have a different hand on the back and one on the front. And let's just receive. Yes. Okay, and just relax. I was looking at everyone just to see what was happening, and I looked down at June, and I thought, well, June must not be into this today because she's not putting her. And then I realized it's a still picture. So.
She's there.
Yes. And then, Maxine, I wanted to give you a key since you don't have any singing bowls yet. And you probably know musically more about this. I play keyboard and piano, but I'm not trained. But if you'll just go in sometime and try this, only play the black keys. Press down 3 of them. They come in 3s and 2s, right? So there's 3 black keys, then 2, and then 3, and then 2. Start just kind of rolling your hands on those black keys, or just play them randomly, just kind of arpeggiate them. Or find just solid notes of like a chord with just black keys and press it down and hold it. Make sure that you've lifted the damper pedal off so that you're allowing it to fully resonate, that's going to give you a harmonic effect very similar to a singing bowl.
Good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and we got 3 more hands up. So, Debbie and Larry, go ahead.
Hallelujah. Thank you for bringing your contribution, Steve. That's wonderful. And I really enjoyed doing the frequency on my head. I've actually experienced quite a bit of body work and frequency healing of that nature. I find it to be helpful. I can release muscle spasms in that manner. And I had a thought on Dorette's contribution. I think that the elements of the periodic table have a resonant frequency according to the according to the molecular structure, and that entrains with the biomolecular structure of the body. And so there's a harmony that takes place there. And that's pretty much all that I'm seeing right now.
I have something, but I'll let you respond to that, Steve, first.
No, I agree. I think that's great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted, it doesn't necessarily relate to what Maxine said, but you said something about energy and place, and to me, I heard storing. And so instantly what popped into my mind is the reason that like Jacob, or actually pretty much all of them, would build memorial to a place that something happened, right? So to me, that they were marking the territory that this energy experience happened. And I think we do that all the time. I want to keep a peaceful atmosphere in my home. You know, I want to carry with me this peaceful resonant that I can give to others. So I think if we're doing that in our own ways, we are sharing this beautiful exchange with one another, and it brings healing, it brings comfort, because I'm currently an Uber driver, and so I'm constantly engaging people. Some can become, you know, or not become, but are entered with an irritated place, and I try to calm that sense. Others, some people need quiet, some people need me to talk to them. But I try to pick up those vibes and engage with them in ways that are healthy and whole, and it is wonderful. I get such a thrill going to work because I get to do these exchanges with people, and I think we're talking frequency, right? Or we're talking gallons. I'm gonna be able to rethink the way I speak now because of the way you said that, and try to use more things like just energy, and or try and define it as, you know, is this peace? Is this love? Is this joy? Is this, you know, because each of those things carry a different frequency. So I love that. I'll stop with that one there. Yeah. But real quickly, the Mandela effect, I've got to kick up on what Nicholas has put out there. I love the idea of the Mandela effect and the way that we can remember things differently from the past, or a group of people will remember it one way and another group will remember it another. I think there's a theme here with remembrance, and that's what I spoke about when I said we build the monuments over places in remembrance of this event. I think it's a huge and much bigger story than we currently understand, and I think frequency plays a huge part in that, or the capture of energy, the release of energy, the engagement with energy.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Well, you know, they had it right back in the 60s when, you know, they were always talking about, you know, the vibe, you know, got to get the vibe. And it's already coming back quite a bit. It's been back for quite a while. But, yeah, get into the vibration. You know, you got to catch the vibe. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, thank you, Larry and Debbie. Janine, go ahead.
Yeah. I too am one that, to quote Shakespeare, a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. I too am not so um, driven by the dot and tittle or a terminology, but more of the energy that exists. Because no matter what we call it, it's that what we're calling things is limited to our cultural experiences. So that does not define it. And so I believe that even when I was listening to Maxine and the comments that were made, we all have different experiences. And I don't believe in periods. I believe in commas because I believe that things are continual. It's a continuum, and us as beings that are a part of the whole, what we have is a part, and I'm okay with that. I don't feel a need to be outside of what I've been created to be at all. With that being said, my experience with shifting atmospheres. We hear that one occasion of Peter's shadow type of thing if we go to the biblical perspective, but there are many others, but that one stands out, I think, a lot in people's minds. I have found that depending upon my focus, it has a lot to do with what kind of energy I will I will disperse into the atmosphere, so to speak. So with my own family and children, depending upon, how I've just whether I've decided to live in the truth or if I decide to just live in some fictitious place that I've created because of my fears, right? It has a lot to do with how my family responds. And so I have had a lot of success in shifting without with intent, but without um, exerting in a lot of external energy. But just because I made a decision that this was the reality, going on my relationship with the Lord or our Creator, or whatever we want to call him, Yahweh, whatever. For me, that's not even a thing because I may call the Creator whatever I'm calling him at a particular time, depending upon where I am, at a particular time. But when I when I'm in sync, then the possibilities are endless. So I don't believe in the fact that someone has to receive, because I've seen when people didn't even have a clue. They were, well, they didn't overtly receive. Of course they received, but it was not an intentional receiving or intentional choice. It was because of the vibration, the energy that I exuded with me being intentional that shifted, right? And so I have found that there are times when a person can reject. And then there's a time when a person is just clueless and they still can be changed, right? And so I don't find it to be either or. I think it's an and, because me, even with me sharing this, I always say I'm not the Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am not the creator of all things. So I'm not here to say that this is the way. I'm just sharing my experiences because I've had an experience on both sides of the spectrum. I've had experiences when my shadow did, and then when my shadow did not, right? But what I'm learning is it has everything to do with how, where I am. And so my journey is to continue to raise my consciousness so that I can be more useful. Not so much what I'm going to do out there, because even in Christendom and other disciplines, I find people's energy primarily on what I'm going to do out there. I'm going to help this person. I just want to do this. You know, for me, it's, I'm not being narcissistic or anything. I'm finding that the more I do in here, the more effective I am out there, you know? And so I don't spend my time talking about me doing the Great Commission when if I actually am becoming who I've been created to be, you know, and we call that transformation. And the reality is I'm just waking up to my realities, I find.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, without a lot of effort, I have been a successful in being a blessing to others, or helping this our humanity become, you know, more peaceful, or more loving, or more full of joy, or whatever adjective we want to use or verb we want to use, and stuff about you know, concerning our life. So yeah, I think everything was triggered from Maxine and her son, because I've had success, and then I've had things that I wouldn't call a success, but I don't even call it that anymore because I don't know what the heck is going on. You know, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know what I'm
Good.
seeing, but that means zero. So yeah, that's my contribution for today.
All right. Thank you, Deneen. So appreciate you. So appreciate you. I want to do something really quick, and then we're going to go to John Weens. I'm going to share, I think, let's see if this works. Yeah. Some people were asking or indicating that they weren't getting the reminders or the newsletters. So a couple things I just want to point out here really quick. Number one, make sure you are signed up for the newsletter. That is a big one. And if you just go to the homepage, GilHodgesFreedom.com, just scroll down a little bit, right there's the newsletter. And when you click on it, it's going to take you in to a place where you can sign up for the newsletter. I am shifting more and more to getting all the information out on the website and through newsletters versus Facebook and YouTube, because that is an uncontrollable environment on the others, and it just doesn't work very well. So, unless you pour tons and tons of money, I'm talking about thousands of dollars into it, you're not going to get a lot of good results. So, if you do want more information and you want to stay abreast of what's happening at the Pearl and the Gathering and GilHodgesFreedom.com, then go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. And I am going to be shifting as well back to now I forgot what I was actually going to say. Anyway, so get signed up for the newsletter. Maybe it'll come back in a second, and we'll get you information that way. Oh, and I wanted to. This is what I was going to say. With the Gathering, I'm going to set it up so that you will sign up for that, just like the Sunday morning meditations. If you sign up for the Sunday morning meditations, you'll get a reminder every week for the Sunday morning meditations. If you're not getting the reminder, please make sure you check your spam. Okay, well then, because you were the one saying that you weren't getting the reminder. And I'll have to go back and look again, but I was pretty sure you were already in the system, but I will double check, because if you didn't get in there, then that might be why you're not getting the reminder. I'll check as soon as I get off here to make sure. Also, just want to say, this is going to continue. I'm going to be bowing out here in just a couple minutes, but stick around. John and Evelyn will keep this going for the rest of you who want to dive in even deeper. I encourage you to stick around on YouTube. It's only going to be, only on Zoom. It's going to be only on Zoom with John and Evelyn. So hop on over to Zoom if you want to be part of that. And I think that's it for right now. Any other things that we need to announce before, again, that retreat? It's October 16 through 19. Mark that on your calendar, and hopefully we will see a lot of you there. All right, John, go ahead. And I'm going to have to bow out here shortly. But let's go ahead and have John share his piece, and then we'll wrap up the public part at that point. Go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, I have problems sleeping. So, I get to sleep, and then I wake up way too early, and I can't get to sleep. Do you have any recommendation for any singing bowls to listen to? And I also have an organ, of which instruments on that organ would be helpful for that kind of thing to play.
Again, John, one of the things that I would do is I would play the black keys only,
On the organ as well?
On the organ, because that is going to give you this scale that is different than it's not going to allow for predictable melodies. It's going to allow for more of an ambient sound, a more ethereal kind of sound. And for some reason, as I'm thinking through, if you have the ability to select oboe, like
Yeah,
an
we have
oboe
ability to
sound,
select almost all the instruments there are. There's lots
Yeah.
of instruments on.
for
But
some
there
reason,
oboe is on there.
okay, for some reason that's coming to me for you.
Okay, appreciate that.
Um,
Thank you.
And then there are recordings.
I looked it up, and there's one Tibetan singing bowls for sleeping.
Yeah, there's some of these are good, some are not. I've got sound baths that Kristen and I have done that are available that we can send out to folks. There's we'll charge you what we would charge
Right.
the person that's coming live to the sound bath, but you might find that to be helpful.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had anything that I could
Yeah, and we're working on
purchase from you.
Yeah, we're working on our website. We've got some thumb drives that still have those are still available, and I've even got some old CDs of the recordings. But we're working on getting downloads put together, so you can reach out to me. And I don't know if Gil's put any information there or not, but it's hamptuner@gmail.com. So it's HAMPTUNER@gmail.com.
Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I can.
Then I can just take a picture of it. And
Okay. Yeah, and I've not put it down there yet. Steve, if you can send me a little bio, then I'll go through and put those with the video. Put that bio with the video. All right. Well, I'm going to be signing off here. Again, I encourage you to stick around for John and Evelyn and the Afterburn, and have a good time. And I'm sure there's lots more questions and a lot more stuff to dive into. So enjoy your time, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Love you all.